Hi, I'm Darren.
Hello, I am Kevin.
Hi, my name's Jaden Yang.
Military use of psychoactive drugs has been and continues to be a prevalent method in maintaining operator and personal performance in high intensity and prolonged exercises and tasks in so-called go pills as a stimulant and concentration enhancer. The use of such methods and its possible efficacy may be expanded to a wider range of emergency work, with a specific example being that of intensive long-hour surgeries. In our study, we observed the impact of one such drug, methamphetamine, on the reaction speed of participants as a test to discern whether it may have any potentially concerning effects which may incapacitate or influence emergency workers. For our study, we obtained consent from 80 islanders chosen through the following randomization process. For each subject, a random number generator from RStudio's sample function was used to pick both the island of origin, city of origin, address, and their position within the resident list of that address. We then asked for consent from each chosen subject. In the case that the subject was either below the age of 18 or unwilling to provide consent, the above process was repeated. Furthermore, as agreed upon with our participants, we have chosen not to disclose their names. The subjects were then randomly assigned to one of the two treatments, injection of 50 mg methamphetamine or injection of 3 ml of saline. This was again done through a random number generator, and each group contained 40 participants. The participants were not informed which of the two treatments they were receiving. To measure reaction distances, we utilized the ruler test, which involved measuring how far the ruler drops in between us letting go and the subject catching it. We took a reaction distance measurement for each subject before the injection was administered. We then waited 5 minutes following injection for the effects of their treatment to manifest before taking another reaction distance measurement. Finally, we took the difference in reaction distance values before and after injection for each subject and took the means of the differences for each treatment group. These means were analyzed through a one-sided t-test using RStudio. We chose to use a significant threshold of 0.05. The null hypothesis was that the means between the two groups were equal, and the alternative hypothesis was that the mean was higher for the methamphetamine treatment group.
A pilot study was performed prior to the main experiment to determine a suitable sample size that would achieve at least 80% power. 10 participants were initially recruited for each treatment group through the same method of randomization and selection as before. Entering the results here into RStudio, we found that around 29 people per group was required for a power level greater than 80%. Thus, we chose the number 40. There were a few assumptions that we made in our study. One assumption was that through our randomization process, we would obtain a sample representative of the population of islanders aged 18 and above. This would allow us to draw conclusions about that portion of the population as a whole. It was also assumed that the sample size of 40 for each treatment group was large enough to provide relatively normal distributions which underlie the t-test. This is justified from both the central limit theorem and the fairly linear relationships observed in the following quantile-quantile plots. The sample size of 40 in each group was also assumed to be large enough to minimize the effects of outliers and skewness. Finally, it was assumed that the trials performed for each individual were independent of each other.
By analyzing the data in RStudio, we found the following results. A student's t-value of 2.5391 was obtained for 74.433 degrees of freedom using Welch approximation. A subsequent p-value of 0.006601 was then obtained, with the very low value indicating that the probability of our results due to random chance was very unlikely and well below our critical p-value of 0.05. This would indicate that there was strong evidence for the rejection of the null hypothesis and the adoption of the alternative hypothesis, that the methamphetamine injection had a statistically significant impact in increasing the reaction distance exhibited by participants. Overall, our study shows that methamphetamine injection of 50 mg increases mean reaction distance. The increase was shown to be statistically significant to the 5% level, with a one-way t-test giving a p-value of 0.006601. Note that this conclusion applies to islanders aged 18 and over only. One inherent limitation of our study was that we could not standardize the methamphetamine dose injected to each participant by their weight, which would have controlled for the different rates in which different people processed the drug. Further studies should implement this missing factor, like providing 1 mg per kilogram of body weight. Another limitation was that our study looked at methamphetamine administration as a categorical variable. A more quantitative approach could be taken to this experiment, and this may involve something like injecting subjects with varying amounts of methamphetamine, such as 0 mg, 50 mg, 100 mg, 150 mg, and 200 mg, and measuring their reaction distance before and after injection. This could then be paired with linear regression or one-way ANOVA.